All right, welcome. This session today is about introducing the scholarly skills community. My name is Dr. Julie Evener, and I'm the Director of Library Services.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hideki Nakazono. I'm the director of the Writing Center.
We're excited to be able to talk to you today about the scholarly skills community. Here we go. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk about what is the scholarly skills community, a little bit of background about it. I'm going to take you on a tour of the actual scholarly skills community in Blackboard, give you a sense of all the different sections and just orient you a little bit to that community in Blackboard. We're going to talk about integration in courses and then address any questions that you have. I will say that this session is a blended audience, which means that some people in the audience are students, some people in the audience might be faculty members. So I am going to share information that relates to both of those audiences. And if it doesn't apply to you, then just don't worry about it. But there will be a few pieces that they're going to be specific to faculty members. So just so that you're aware, it is a blended audience for our session today. Okay, so what is a scholarly skills community? It is a, quote, community within Blackboard. So basically this means that, that it's a little bit different than a course that you're enrolled in Blackboard. The biggest difference is that a course is something that you would need to actually write through the registrar, enroll in the course to get access to that space within Blackboard, versus the scholarly skills community is something that all students and faculty members are automatically enrolled in when they join the university. So it's something that you'll always have access to as long as you have access to USA's Blackboard platform. And it's not something you need to specially ask to be included in or something like that. It's automatic within Blackboard. It was created and is managed by the University Library and Writing Center staffs. The purpose of the scholarly skills community is to provide information and training at the time of need, so asynchronously. And I know synchronous and asynchronous are terms that are used a lot, especially in like the last year or so. Asynchronous simply means on your own time, right? There's not a specific time or date requirement that you need to be live interfacing with somebody else, an instructor or a student or something like that. So this means that if you are at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you're, finishing up a paper and you're saying, oh, I'm not sure about these AMA references, you can go into the scholarly skills community and access the module about AMA and get the information that you need straight from there without waiting for an appointment or waiting for somebody to be available to meet with you. It's at the time of need. There are 21 modules in the scholarly skills community, and we've divided those into 6 topic areas, which we'll talk about in a minute. And we also have micro-credentials through the scholarly skills community. In this case, by micro-credentials, what we mean are certificates of completion that are awarded to affirm your mastery of a module. So what that really means is that at the end of each module, there's an assessment. In most cases, these are like quizzes, multiple choice quizzes, or maybe sometimes where you need to type something in. Sometimes, depending on the topic, they are more in-depth assessments, including where you need to like download and complete like an assignment sort of a thing. And when you successfully pass the assessment, you would be awarded this certificate. So now you don't have to do a certificate, right? So we kind of have, moving into this final bullet point here, the partnerships with courses, we kind of have 2 kind of ways in mind that students and faculty will use the scholarly skills community. The first is this at the time of need support, asynchronous support that I was mentioning earlier. And with this at the time of need asynchronous support, there might just be something that you need to reference really quickly. You might just need to go in and, you're working on something, you have a project, you need assistance. So you go in and you look at that information and you apply that information to the project you're working on. And that's fine. You're not even doing the whole module, you're just looking at one piece of it. So that's one way. And if you're using the scholarly skills community that way for that particular need, you might not have any need or want to complete an assessment and receive a certificate. But we are also going to be partnering. We also are partnering with courses. And so in the fall, if you're a student, you might start to see some of your courses have a requirement for you to complete a certain module in the scholarly skills community. And so this is where the certificates are really going to be helpful because, or really essential, because what you'll do then is for the course, let's say they say, you know, for this course, we want you to complete the components of scholarly writing module because it's going to maybe be a writing heavy course. So in that case, you would go in, complete the whole module, take the assessment, and then the certificate that you're awarded, you'll need to upload into your course to prove that you've completed that module for your course. So this is supplemental to your courses, but we're working on, we already have some partnerships with courses, we're working on more where faculty members are going to be requiring their students to complete certain modules in the scholarly skills community. And the certificates will be essential in those cases. One other thing I wanted to mention with the training at the time of need, I want to emphasize that this scholarly skills community in no way is going to replace the Writing Center staff and the library staff working one-on-one with students and faculty. This is something that we offer and we will continue to offer. But we do think that the scholarly skills community is going to change the frequency maybe and the depth of those one-on-one sessions that we have with students and faculty. So for example, we might currently, before scholarly skills community, right, a library staff member might meet with a student one-on-one to talk about qualitative and quantitative research articles. And, you know, we might spend a good portion of that time talking about, okay, here's how you tell the difference between a qualitative and quantitative article. Here's some strategies for you to find, if you're specifically looking for a quantitative article, here's some strategies to find a quantitative article through library databases. And so we might spend a good amount of time with the student on that topic. And with the scholarly skills community, a student can go in and they can access the qualitative and quantitative research module, and they can get all of that content through the module. So then when they've done that, you know, maybe they do still want support, maybe they've read all that and they really just want, I just double check my work. Are we sure that this, can you weigh in? Is this a quantitative or is this qualitative? And so they just might want additional support after that. Or they might want to go to the next level and talk about something more in depth than is covered in the module. So that's what we're thinking would be helpful here. So it's what has led to a scalability, right? Some of the more fundamental topics, knowledge, and skills can be covered in the scholarly skills community, and then we can use our individual librarian and writing center coach time to go more in depth with students and with faculty on topics and to provide that next level support. Okay, moving on here, 6 topic areas. So I mentioned that we have 21 modules in 6 topic areas. Those topic areas are getting started, advanced searching, evaluating resources, formatting and referencing, scholarly writing, and scholarly communications. A little bit of background on the scholarly skills community, kind of a little bit about how it came to be. It's been in the works since November of last year, so we've had a lot of months that the Writing Center and library staff, along with some other supporting players at the university, have put into creating and designing this scholarly skills community for you. As I mentioned, we want to provide additional ways for students and faculty to get help from our staffs for convenience, right? Asynchronously for your convenience, that you don't have to wait for a writing center appointment. You don't need to wait for a librarian to be available. You know, as I mentioned, none of us are available at like 2 in the morning. So, you know, maybe that's when you're working. And so you can get that support then. So that's a little bit of background. We're working on it. We were really approaching it with the idea that we wanted the modules to be engaging. We wanted the modules to be presenting information in a variety of ways. So we'll see that once I go in to do the tour. And I'll show you a couple examples of this, but we're trying to use all different methods to convey the information. We've got videos, we've got text to read, we've got some more interactive elements to it. So lots of different ways and formats that we're presenting the information, again, in hopes of keeping it engaging. You know, we are well aware that, you know, searching the literature and scholarly writing are maybe not the most exciting of topics. So we wanted to make sure to present it in ways that would be more engaging and for students and faculty who might be participating. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into the tour. So I'm going to start on this screen, which is the My Institution screen. Obviously, mine looks a little bit different than yours probably does, and I don't want to stay here too long, but I do just want to show you where you find it. So if this My Institution screen is the home screen of Blackboard, but if you're not on the My Institution screen, you can just click on My Institution. And then under My Organizations, you'll see Scholarly Skills Community. So this is where you click to enter the Scholarly Skills Community. And now I'm going to enter student preview mode so that rather than seeing my administrative view, this is exactly what you'll see when you're in the Scholarly Skills Community. So our homepage, we have our banner logo at the top here, and then information about the Scholarly Skills Community and how to use it. I think I touched on most of these things already. I mentioned that it's asynchronous, but I didn't mention that some of the modules might have synchronous components. Right now, I think that is only one. There is only one module that has a synchronous component. Under the Getting Started section, there's a module called Identifying Keywords and Basic Searching. And in order to get a certificate for that module, you do need to attend a live online workshop called Identifying Keywords and Basic Searching Workshop. And so that is a requirement of getting the certificate there. Of course, if you're not interested in getting the certificate, you don't have to attend that workshop, and there's plenty of asynchronous information in that module as well. Browse and complete modules in any order at your own pace. This is your space to explore and go through and pull the information you need, and you know, don't worry about the information that you don't, at least until maybe you do need it later on. Complete the modules you need or want. There's no requirement to go through all the modules or to go through them in any particular order. Come back again and again as you recognize the need or desire to complete more modules or to review modules you've already completed. So again, this is at the point of need, right? So if you're familiar with what modules are in here, then, you know, a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, you might be working on a project and think, oh gosh, I really need help with XYZ. And then our hope is that you think, oh, maybe there's something in the Scholarly Skills Community that can help me. Or maybe you'll say, oh, I remember there was a module in the Scholarly Skills Community about this that could help me. And so then you can go and access it here. I mentioned the assessment requirements to be awarded a certificate of completion. And again, I just want to emphasize by the assessment requirement, really we're just saying if you want or need a certificate of completion. There's certainly no requirement to do the assessment unless you want to get a certificate for that module. I mentioned students might be required to complete certain modules as a part of course or advisor requirements and then submit your certificate of completion to affirm your completion. So I talked about with courses, but another vision that we have for this Scholarly Skills Community is that, you know, a faculty advisor, maybe working with a student, you know, maybe the student comes to a faculty advisor and says, you know, I keep missing points on these writing assignments that I need to do for my courses. I'm really struggling with that piece of things. And the faculty advisor might say to that student, oh, you know, there's a great components of scholarly writing module in the Scholarly Skills Community. Why don't you go and complete that and then submit your certificate to me as a way for the faculty advisor to support a student with specific needs. Each module is open to students and faculty members alike to complete. So students and faculty members are all in this community as learners, with that kind of Blackboard status of learners. So that means faculty members can certainly use these modules and receive certificates of completion for these modules and learn from them as well. We will be adding new modules periodically as we see a need for them, and we will update existing modules as needed. So I mentioned these 6 topics. Here they are again. You can get to them a couple of ways here on the home screen. You can click on them here, or they're over here on the left sidebar as well. There's an Explore Further section here with just more information, a link to the library's website, a link to the library's live virtual events, a link to the Writing Center website, and a link to book a Writing Center appointment. So just some handy kind of shortcuts there for you. I want to talk briefly about the My Certificates section. So this works a lot like the My Grade section in your Blackboard courses, where any modules that you've completed an assessment for, the scores of your assessments will be listed here, and your certificates will be stored here as well. So the certificates we will be giving to you within the feedback, I guess, to the assessment that you've submitted. So you'll be able to access any certificates that you've earned in this My Certificates section. Okay, so now I'm going to go through each section and just briefly touch on the modules within each section, going a little more in depth into just a couple of them. So under Getting Started, we have 3 modules. The first one is Developing a Research Topic. The second one here is Identifying Keywords and Basic Searching. This is the one I mentioned had that synchronous component in order to receive a certificate. And then Databases and Finding Full Text. And under Advanced Searching, we have a few more. Advanced Research Techniques, Controlled Vocabulary and MESH, which stands for Medical Subject Headings, Finding and Identifying Quantitative and Qualitative Research Studies, Cognitive Bias in the Literature Search, Intersectional Search Strategies for Evidence-Based Practice, and Systematically Searching for Scoping Reviews. One thing that I meant to mention earlier under the background section is how we came up with these topics and these modules that we wanted to address. So one of the first things that we did after we decided to do this is we reached out to faculty members. We had some informal meetings with faculty members. We had some emails going back and forth with faculty members. And our main question was, what are some areas that you think you or your students could benefit from knowing more about, but that aren't necessarily covered in the coursework? And so we had a list from that. As Writing Center staff and library staff, we also kind of had our own lists of questions. When we meet with students, we know what topics come up more often, where there are more questions. And that's why this page reminded me, because in the library, one of the common topic that we meet with students on and answer student questions on is finding and identifying quantitative and qualitative research studies. I think there are at least a couple of courses that have assignments that ask students to specifically find either quantitative or qualitative research studies. And so students come to us and sometimes aren't even sure what the difference is between a qualitative and quantitative. So we walk them through that. We walk them through tactics, strategies for locating a specific kind of article through the library databases. So that's where that one came from, as well as the systematically searching for scoping reviews. We particularly see this with OTD students. As OTD students are approaching their capstone projects, we've seen quite a few who have decided, or they're exploring the idea of doing a scoping review for their capstone. So they reach out to us. And of course, a key, essential part of a scoping review is the search strategy. Everything hinges around the search strategy in a scoping review. So students will reach out to us and say, what are the steps? How do I construct this search strategy? How do I get started doing this scoping review? And so that was where this topic came from as well. Evaluating resources is the next section. Types of resources, hierarchy of evidence, critical appraisal tools, and systemic bias in internet search engines and scholarly databases are the ones here. The next two, formatting and referencing and scholarly writing, I'm going to turn it over to Hideki to address those.
Thanks, Julie. So the formatting and referencing section is more particular to style guides. And so as you can see there, AMA and APA are listed. And so in going through these, a student should feel, or just a person should feel comfortable developing a document that aesthetically appears like an APA style or an AMA style document. So it just includes the four big categories, formatting, style, referencing, in-text citation, things like that. And then we can go into the scholarly writing section, if you would, please. And so in this section, this is more where we talk about general elements of writing. So these aren't tied to style guides in particular. So the components of scholarly writing, this is going to introduce, organization, different types of sections like your introduction, your conclusion, a thesis, things of that sort. And just some good tips about how to approach those different categories. Plagiarism is a little more in depth than it might initially seem. Plagiarism goes beyond just ethical reproduction or what you might think of as like cheating per se. At the scholarly level, at the graduate level, plagiarism can be confusing. A lot of times it happens unintentionally because we are aiming for synthesis and we're trying to weave in the resources that we use alongside the material that we're producing, alongside our argument. And sometimes through that act of synthesis, plagiarism can happen unintentionally. And so there are some nuances that perhaps hadn't been considered by all prior. And so we do encourage people to check that one out as they're able. And then finally, the capstones and dissertations section. I shouldn't say finally, the final writing center produced section, I suppose, capstones and dissertations. This is more a general introduction to the components of those types of documents, capstones and dissertations, that are particular to, those types of projects in a general sense. So we kind of just talk about what usually appears in any of those sections, an abstract, an introduction, literature review, so on and so forth. In addition to that, we have housed materials that have been shared by the different departments and programs. It is certainly not to be considered a comprehensive list. We have some materials from some programs that they felt would be appropriate to share in these locations. Others, people didn't always want to include because it might be misleading for people that are at one program or another. So always, please be sure to make sure that you're working from the particulars with your advisors, your committee members, with your courses. But these do give you good senses of some general stuff. And there are things from the different programs. If something's in there, it means that the program has provided us with that material, so you can take a look and see what is there. And then I did just want to add, Julie mentioned that we are looking to expand some of the sections, and that's a section in the Writing Center piece in particular where we are looking to expand that one. Currently, the capstones and dissertations focuses on doctoral level projects, and so we will hope to expand that with more of our master's program projects as well as we move forward.
Great, thank you. And then just the last section to address is scholarly communications. And scholarly communications is all about the creation and dissemination of scholarly work, scholarly projects. And this is definitely a section we're going to be adding modules to sooner rather than later. But the two modules that we have to start with, we have one about open access and one about copyright and Creative Commons. I want to duck back into, I think it's under evaluating resources, really quick, because I was talking about making this engaging. And so one of the examples I want to show is this systemic bias in internet search engines and scholarly databases section was created by one of our librarians, Matthew Chase, and it is particularly interactive. And he used some really neat features as he designed it. So for example, in this, he used this interactive book, sort of a design in this section where you can click through, the different pages and different sections, like an ebook. And then he used the same, the interactive book structure, but he did it a little differently in this one, where it's like you click on the different parts of this kind of creepy looking room and learn more about different aspects by doing that. So some neat, in this one he did yet another, designed them sort of like trading cards. It's kind of got like a Dungeons and Dragons sort of a theme. So he did a lot of really neat things, and this is one example, but that was kind of our goal throughout the Scholarly Skills community, was to present the information in an engaging way. A couple more things I wanted to show you here before we go to questions. Under helpful links, a link to upcoming events at the library and some of the library's archived events. And then the faculty zone. This would really only apply to faculty members, but it's an area for faculty members to do a couple of things. The first is that if you are wanting to require students in your course to complete a particular module as a supplement to your course, we do have a form here that we ask you to fill out. We're not requiring it, but it is helpful to us. That way we know to expect that, 100 students are all going to be doing this particular module at this particular time, so that we can just plan ahead for that. So we do ask you to fill this out if you know you want to require a particular module in your course. And then we have a feedback survey, and maybe that needs to be described a little bit differently, because really what it is if you see problems in the scholarly skills community, whether that's a small typo or a concept that you think is really confusing and is not explained well, we want to know that so that we can improve it. And so this, if you click on this, it'll ask you to say, okay, which section was it in, which module is it in, and explain the problem that you found. So this is the faculty zone for faculty members to come and learn a little bit more about how to incorporate modules into your courses, as well as to give us any feedback on the scholarly skills community. Okay. So now I'm going to open it up to answer any questions. If you don't have questions, feel free to head out. I'm going to put the survey in the chat again, if you could click on that as you leave. But if you have questions or want to hear other people's questions and have time to hang out for a couple more minutes, please do.
Julie, Lucas asked a question. He's indicating that he's unable to see the link to the Scholarly Skills community under
I replied to him privately. He's an incoming fall term student, and so he might not have access yet. I think the incoming fall students just even got access to Blackboard yesterday. Yeah.
I asked it just because I wanted to make sure, I didn't know, in case other people didn't, if someone slipped through and didn't find it, I would expect that they should just send a ticket to IT for that, but I wanted to.
Agreed, yeah, I think so. I think if you're in this session and you are a new incoming fall student, just be a little bit patient. Probably by the end of the week, you'll have access to it. But if you're not an incoming fall student, if you're a faculty member, or if you're a student who's been around a while and you don't have access to this, definitely reach out to IT. This recording is going to be available, yes. We have the first session that we did for this, the recording is already available on, through the library's YouTube channel. Anybody who's registered for this session today, I'll be emailing with a link to this session, to the recording for this session. Do you see the micro certificates? Well, so the city certificates are different because that is really about topics that are sort of outside the areas of expertise of the library and the Writing Center. It's the city certificates are really about conducting research, like putting together, ethical research projects and things like that. So I don't see it replacing it unless we get some really good in-house experts on those topics who want to team up with us as well and add those as sections in the scholarly skills community. It's definitely, the topics addressed in the city certificates are definitely outside of the scope of what Writing Center and library expertise is. But I can see maybe in the future, like I said, if we've got some experts that internally at the university who want to do that. Yeah, the University of St. Augustine uses City as well for certifications. And if you are going to be doing a project like a capstone where you're conducting research, the IRB will ask you to do that certification through City before you can submit your IRB application. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you so much. I'm going to put in the survey in the chat one more time. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. library@usa.edu is a great way to reach out to library staff. And Writing Center has a general one too, don't you, Hideki?
We do. It's writingcenter@usa.edu.
Yeah, so good, very similar. library@usa.edu or writingcenter@usa.edu. And we'll be happy to answer any further questions for you. Thank you, everyone.
Great.